In this episode, I'll be bringing you current news from Zimbabwe. I'll be reviewing weekly headlines from both the independent newspapers and the national newspapers, which is owned by the government. In this era of social media, it is easy to be trapped in fake news or people deployed specifically to peddle propaganda. And the government of Emerson Mnangagwa of late have been criticized for exactly that, for spending so much money in hiring consultant companies, including those in the USA and people dotted around the world, specifically to misinform the public and also to peddle the vehicle of propaganda. Now, the intention of this episode is not to present a propaganda in an equal countermeasure, but is to give you both views of the reports, both the independent and the national newspapers, so that you can critically and deduce and make up your mind based on the informed persona. Now, high on the agenda this week has been the invasion of the MDC Alliance HQ, a Morgan Tsvangirai House, or otherwise known as the Harvest House in Harare. What made this so a topical issue is the fact that it is not the MDCT, which is the other party that has taken MDC Alliance to court, that invaded HQ, but instead it was the army and the police, heavily armed security forces, invaded the house. And as we speak, these are still occupying the MDC Alliance HQ. Questions have been asked how an opposition party can command an army. And not only that, an army and a police unit. So those questions will feature in these headlines that I'm going to go through today. Now, let's look at the Daily News, which is one of the main daily papers in Zimbabwe. Now, the Daily News first page has it that Zim on the verge of implosion. BT warns. BT is the vice president of MDC Alliance. And BT himself was arrested on Friday, the 5th of June, with 5 others, members of MDC Alliance leadership. Again, Daily News, the following day, had another headline on the same issue: Divided MDC fights questions. Now, this heading is misleading because it assumes that there are two opposition parties that are fighting over the HQ. But if you look right in the middle there, you'll find that it is MDC Alliance leadership against the police. And one wonders, why is it that the police are involved in this fiasco? And it can only be ascertained that the current ZANU-PF government has its foot in the meddling of opposition politics in Zimbabwe, using a divide and rule to destroy the only political space, a democratic space left in Zimbabwe. And surprising enough that all this is actually happening during a lockdown. So the government itself is putting the public in danger by deploying these army officers, police officers, when they are supposed to be under lockdown. Now let's look at other news. The Voice of America, very specific. MDC Alliance, armed soldiers, police helped Cooper's MDC-T to invade our headquarters. And that picture speaks volume. And this is not the first time that the government has deployed security forces, armies, and the police to invade, arrest, and beat up opposition members right in their offices. So that's the Voice of America in the news. Now look at from the diplomatic news. The U.S. Embassy also voiced their concern on June 5, which was on Friday, and it reads, "We are dismayed by the politicization, use of security forces to take over the headquarters of an opposition party and arrest its members. A healthy democracy requires healthy opposition parties," the statement from U.S. Embassy reads. And if you look in this, right in the middle there, we put the riot police right in riot gears. And mind you, that was on a Friday, barring any members of the opposition in entering the HQ. And the whole city of Harare was in lockdown, as you can see there. A lot of questions are being asked. What was the motive for Mnangagwa to deploy the forces to put Harare under lockdown? And how come they've been involved in differences between two opposition parties? So let's move on. What does the state media say? So I've given you an overview of the independent newspapers and also a communication from the U.S. Embassy. Now, this is the Zimbabwean Mail on Sunday, June the 6th. And the topic is divided MC fires escalates as it risks losing relevance. So you can see how these newspaper headings play in the fiasco. Nothing in the Zimbabwean Mail, mentioning the police or the army invading the MDC HQ. Instead, it highlights that the MDC is fighting and is losing its relevance. Really? Hang on. Right. There's no picture that shows the forces, the police, and the army in lockdown of Harare, invading MDC Alliance offices. The only merit to the story is that MDC risks losing relevance. So you can see how the state media in Zimbabwe reports both pertinent social issues, political issues in the country. And if people are to follow only the one logic or one trajectory coming from the state media, then the whole relevance of critical information is lost. And this one sort of summarizes what happened on Friday. So we've got on the right here, the riot security officers, and here is the leadership of MDC having been arrested. Not for anything else other than trying to access the HQ. So there you are. I leave you to make up your mind as to exactly what is happening in Zimbabwe.